Hello, everyone. This was the speech I intended to give at the Multi-County Convention in Thief River Falls last weekend, but that event was canceled as part of the necessary precautions that are being put in place to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Now, this is still an important conversation we need to have, so I'm here in my dining room inviting you to talk. You can see I've set out coffee, popcorn, and Girl Scout cookies to complete the full illusion of us being at the convention together. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Reed Perkins. I'm an Air Force husband, a proud father of two scary smart girls. I'm a science teacher by trade, and I'm running for state senate in Northwest Minnesota. The three key planks of my platform are simple. Healthcare, because here in this district we have a front row seat to the number of Minnesotans who cross the border north to be able to access affordable healthcare, and we need to start treating it like the human right it is and take care of our communities. Childcare, because people should be able to choose to start families here, and being forced to put your name on a daycare waiting list for a child who hasn't even been conceived yet in order to have hope of landing a spot is taking that choice away from people. And ag policy, because our farmers are the backbone of our small towns, and at this point a farmer can work hard, make every correct decision, and get the weather they need, but still fail because our government has allowed the playing field to be tilted in favor of factory businesses through market consolidation, price fixing, and leveraging their wealth against our families' lives and the health of our communities. That needs to change to save both our farmers and our towns. I would go into more detail about who I am, what I believe in, and what other policies I'm running on, but we're going to have the next many months to get to know each other more. While I have people from all over the district here in my dining room, I need to focus instead on one big message. We can win. We, everyone here working together, are capable of this if we put in the effort, win. Take a majority of the state level offices for SD1, be present to impact policy at the local level, and help our fellow Democrats and Minnesotans feel like they are not alone as we fight for them. I want to start with that last point first. If I, magically, had $1 for every Democrat I talked to in this district who told me some variation of, I feel like I'm the only DFLer in my neighborhood, town, or friend group, well, I could both fully fund my campaign and I'd probably have to answer some weird questions from the state finance board. There are so many of us up here, and yet we've all been made to feel both alone and powerless when we are neither. The Polk County DFL had 2 events toward the end of last year, a roadside cleanup and food pantry meal help. They both serve the purpose of doing real good in our communities, but also raising our visibility. It is important to let other people know that we are here, and by doing that, we will see our ranks swell. To that end, one of the things on the table is a sign-up sheet for parade walking. There are going to be dozens of parades in this district this summer, at least one in every single county. And we've all seen the floats that are just a vehicle with a sign and no walkers, and it doesn't inspire anyone. But if we can have our DFL float with dozens of people alongside it, that sends a strong message of unity and presence that is going to tell the other DFLers in the crowd that it's safe, and rumors of our party's demise in this corner of the state have been greatly exaggerated. Look, if it's just my campaign manager, Joe, and I up there, then that's what it'll be because we're committed to this. But the Erskine Water Carnival is the first big parade of the season. It's the first weekend in June, and it is fully realistic to expect by then we can have 1A and 1B candidates, their families, dozens of other local DFLers, and all of our dogs to walk in that parade. We will start this campaign season with a loud statement that will be put on the front pages of all the local papers. I get it, though. It's easy to look at the numbers and feel the weight of the Herculean task that all elections are. In SD1, there were 38,388 votes cast in the most recent presidential election, with 62.8% of them going for Trump. Mark Johnson won their election by 20 points, Deb Keel by 30, Dan Fabian by 40. But we need to give those numbers some context. I remember last summer when my campaign manager, my youngest daughter, and I were getting ready to go up to the Roseau County Fair to sit at the DFL booth there for a couple days. I had multiple people joke with me to bring Kevlar. And I knew the numbers. I knew I was walking into a county that Trump won by 46 percentage points. At the top of this speech, I mentioned my wife is active duty Air Force. During the 2016 election, we were stationed in Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi, which is located in Harrison County. That county was only a Trump plus 30 county. And I remember when I lived down there, everything was Trump. There were Trump bumper stickers, Trump lawn signs, Trump shirts, Trump Confederate flags, Trump everything. I would sit at the poker table and people were still talking about how Obama was born in Kenya as if that was some sort of sage wisdom. And now I was coming to a county even more deep red than that. So the three of us arrive. And as we were walking through the parking lot, there were trailers, pickups, and farm equipment, and we see no Trump paraphernalia at all. I had two notable interactions on that first day. The first was a guy who thanked us for coming up to Rosso and told me how he used to put up lawn signs for the DFL 10 years ago, but then the DFL stopped coming up, and so he stopped putting up signs. I promised him the DFL would be in Rosso again, and he promised to put up signs again. The other interaction I had was a little more aggressive. The guy passed by the booth several times before finally leaning in and saying in a low voice, "No Ilhan Omar signs, huh? Well, I wouldn't be proud of her either." I took a quick glance behind me at the various signs we had in the booth. Walls, Peterson, Tina Smith, and Amy Klobuchar. I turned back to the guy and explained how all the signs we had were people who represented the district, that he could call any of their offices since he was their constituent and therefore their boss. It didn't make sense for us to have a sign up for someone whose electoral region was hours away. He nodded at that, but then continued, "Yeah, but this is definitely still Republican country." And I kind of shrugged and told him I don't think this area has a partisan affiliation. This corner of the state voted hard for Obama and Trump. This is a region that cares more about whether they can trust you and if you'll work for them than if you wear a blue tie or a red tie. The guy had no response and walked away at that. I don't know how he thought the interaction was going to go, but that apparently took him off guard. The next morning, we park. I do see one single Trump bumper sticker, and as we're walking to our booth, I see there's a note left for us on the table. Joe and I exchange a slightly nervous look, but this is the note. "Thanks for being the Democratic presence. We appreciate it." And then there's a smiley face. I've had it in my wallet since last July. We leave town later that day in high spirits, and we decided we wanted to stop by a little board game hobby store in town. And as we step inside, we can't help but notice the giant Trump flag hanging on the wall. I still end up chatting with the owner, and it turns out they are also a military spouse. And then he brings up the problem he always felt about the levels of racism in and around military bases. I decide maybe politics can be brought up here, and I mention our state Senate campaign and how part of why I'm running is that politicians need to start showing up places again, like how Mark Johnson didn't set foot at the Rosso County Fair. Both the owner and the several people in the shop who paused their game to come over nod in agreement and echo our thoughts. Then Joe, having now read the room and deciding to go for it, tells a joke about how since our campaign is bringing back cafe politics, we're really just one big Wellstone reenactment. Whole place busts out laughing. They love it. In the shadow of a Trump flag, Paul Wellstone is being brought up with nothing short of admiration and love. That was our experience in Rosso County. Multiple people telling us how thrilled they were we showed up and how they missed the DFL. One guy maybe attempting to heckle, maybe being confused. One Trump flag, one Trump bumper sticker, and great responses to Paul Wellstone jokes. Rosso County is not a Trump plus 45 county. It might have had a lot of Trump voters, but to win this year, we need to remember the simple truth that there are thousands of Trump voters who are not Trump supporters. I want to go back to what I said to that maybe heckler, though. This is a corner of the state that cares more about how they feel about you than the letter next to your name. I mentioned earlier that Trump won just over 62% of the vote in these 6 counties. If we go back to 2008, McCain only got 48.5% of over 39,000 votes, though. That sort of swing doesn't happen because suddenly people's partisanship moves by 15 plus points in less than a decade. That swing happens because a sizable chunk of Democrats stayed home, as evidenced by the higher voter turnout in 2008, and an even more sizable chunk of independents voting based on who made a better impression. The good news there is that to address both of those things, to cause the pendulum to swing back, we need to do one thing and one thing above all others: be present. Be present clearing roadside trash. Be present helping food pantries. Be present at city council meetings. Be present by putting up road signs. Be present by door knocking. Be present by helping find candidates so no Republican is running unopposed. Be present by marching in parades. Just be present. That will tell Democrats their voice matters, and it tells independents we are the party who can be trusted with the decisions necessary for the benefit of all Minnesotans. The seat I'm running for was blue for over 30 years before 2016 because people knew Leroy Stumpf was there for them. He was someone who would fight for this district, and we are in desperate need of that locally accountable leadership again. First-time incumbents like Mark Johnson are the most vulnerable. With Fabian's retirement, 1A is wide open too. We can win. I look forward to being present with all of you by being present all over this district over the next 8 months. And I promise you that by doing that, we're going to have a great November. There's a poem by a Minnesota artist with a line I repeat to myself often. We are more than the sum of our parts, and they are less than the sum of our fears. If we remember that, we can win. If we behave like that, we will win. Thank you. I mentioned during the speech, you obviously can't sign up here in person right now, but if you check the description of this video, you're going to find links both to a place you can volunteer with our campaign, but also links to where you can donate to our campaign, whichever one suits you better. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you all have a lovely start of spring.